So what I want to do is to now just summarize what hope-focused marriage therapy is all about. And I said that it was more a general approach that techniques could be worked into than it was a set of 500 techniques that you have to memorize and destroy the paper by eating it afterwards so that no one else can find out these secret techniques. So what are the major parts to hope-focused marriage therapy? Well, first of all is that there's a focus on hope. It's building hope in the client. It's building hope in the therapist that they can succeed above and beyond that 50% success rate. It is teaching therapists a strategy of promoting love through faith and work. It is identifying areas and focusing your attention on the areas that are most affected. You only have so much time to work with a couple. You want to concentrate your energy where they need that energy concentrated and not just kind of give them a broad shotgun. And there's one more, and I'll get to it in a minute when I remember it. Okay, so starting with the first that I mentioned, hope. So what is hope? Hope is, I take from Rick Snyder, C.R. Snyder, just died this last year, fairly young. He said that hope was about change. He said it's having the willpower to change and the way power to change. That is, it is about a sense of agency. I can make change happen, and I know how to make change happen. So if a person falls down in either of those areas, they either lose the belief that they can make change happen, or they don't know how to make it happen. They don't have hope. So your average therapist who's having a marital problem, they've got the ways, right? But they lose the confidence that they can make change happen in their own marriage. Many people don't have very many ways. They may have a lot of ways that they have tried to make their marriage work, but by now, many of those ways have been shown that they're not going to work. So they've lost a new way. They need a new way. Either of those deficits means they don't have hope. I believe that something else is necessary, because no matter how good any therapy is, you can't just bring people in and expect them to change like that. So there is always a period where they're struggling. And Gabriel Marcel, Catholic theologian, talked about hope as having Jesus walk through the fiery furnace with us. You know, when they looked into the furnace and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are there, and there's somebody else in there with them, you see. So hope is having a knowledge that you can persevere even when you're not seeing change, even when you're feeling the flames. So I say that hope is willpower to change plus way power to change plus weight power to wait through those times when you are not seeing the change. Well, that red didn't show up very well. Strategy. Okay. Therapists need to have a strategy. So, tactics. How many people play a sport of some kind? Yeah, yeah. Okay, so tactics are like the minute-by-minute maneuvering that happens in a sport. But your strategy is like your overall plan for what you're going to make happen. So therapists need not just skills at dealing with the client on a how do you do this, how do you take care of this intervention, they need a game plan. And the game plan that we teach them is to promote faith, work, and love. Love is being willing to value and not devalue your partner. It is treating your partner like a pearl of great value. So Jesus tells about the man who's walking across the field and he finds the pearl of great value and he sells everything he has for this pearl of great value. So this is the attitude. We have in our immediate interaction in marriage a pearl of great value, and that's our partner. And we should be willing to lay down our life to do whatever it takes to value that partner and show that partner that we value the partner. There are many ways to interpret that pearl parable, but one of the ways to interpret it is that Jesus is the man walking through the field, and he found people who were pearls of great value, and he gave everything he had, his life, to purchase them. Work. Anything that doesn't have energy put into it will run downhill. This is the second law of thermodynamics, which I know we're all intimately familiar with, right? And we probably chant it in our spare moments, in some of the more emotional times in our life. So we are seeing the marriage run downhill if it's coming to counseling. People have to put work into it, have to put energy in, or it will continue to run downhill. Sometimes it will continue to run downhill even if they put energy in it, but it slows it down. So here's a boulder rolling downhill, right? And we're down at the bottom, and we're continuing to try to push it back uphill. It's still rolling downhill. We're trying to keep from being run over. This is the typical therapist behavior, right? It's trying to keep from being run over by the clients. Eventually we stop it and we start it back up the hill again, we hope. And the last part of this strategy is to have faith. So faith, what's faith? Yeah, the substance of things not seen, the evidence of things hoped for. It's something we don't see happening, but that we believe is going to happen because there's evidence in our life that it could happen. So people can have a lot of objects to their faith. They can have faith in God. That is definitely going to help. There's a lot of research that shows that that helps. But they can have other objects of faith too. They can have faith in the other person. They can have faith that the other person is not going to abandon them. They can have faith in you as a therapist that you can help them. You see, if they lose these, or they don't have this faith, they're not going to be motivated to work on the relationship. So we have to build faith in all of those areas. Faith in the partner, faith in God, faith in our ability to help. So, as I mentioned earlier, there are several areas of marriage. And what we want to do is target our interventions and our energy into the areas that need the help. And so I identified 9 areas and gave them all a beginning letter C, and that was to maximally confuse anybody trying to remember them all. So one of these is the central vision of the marriage. What is this marriage? How does it see itself? Core values. What are the things that this marriage finds valuable? Are there values that you can build upon? Do they have an investment in their children? Can you build upon that investment in their children? What are the values that you can build upon? Confession and forgiveness. People mess up. So people who can restore the damage to the emotional bond after a mess up, a disappointment, a hurt, those people will succeed. Communication. Sometimes people just communicate very poorly. Conflict resolution. Some people can resolve conflicts, solve problems, others can't. Cognition. Some people have thoughts that are very negative, and those negative thoughts go a long way to preventing the marriage from thriving. Closeness. This is intimacy in the relationship, and commitment to the relationship. So you're going to assess those areas and then target your interventions to the 1 or 2 or 3 that are the most likely to produce results. Oh yeah, the last one, interventions. So interventions are just attempts to make changes. And my belief in what an effective intervention is, it is an intervention that does more than talks. It's an individual therapy. Y'all do individual therapy? Yeah? Okay, individual therapy, client comes in and talks, right? When the client stops, you feel this pressure, and so you say something. And then you stop, and the client talks. This is not rocket science, right? Marriage therapy, that's not true, right? Marriage therapy, you have two people who live together and who have very rehearsed patterns of conversation. And when one of them quits talking, the other one starts. Now, at the beginning, to humor you, they'll talk to you. But if you're not aggressive, by session 2, they've cut you out entirely, right? And they're having arguments with each other. And so you got to do more than just talk. In individual therapy, it's all about perception. You know, it's about changing the person's perception. In couple therapy, you've got 2 people sitting across from you, and I'll bet you $1,000 they have different perceptions about what's going on, right? So what you have to do is some kind of intervention that when they walk out of here, they can't have an argument. Well, they can, but they probably won't have an argument about whether something happened in therapy. So when we get to intimacy, there's a manipulation of space where they move back and forth across the office. As they get more intimate, they move closer together. As they get less intimate, they move further apart. You know, they get to the place where if they have moved and gotten closer together, depending on what they did, they can't deny that they got closer together, you see. So I summarize this by saying that what we're doing is making changes sensible. We're making them able to be sensed, able to be seen. Every intervention will have something physical that goes with it, whether it's a handout, something they do, someplace they move, something physical besides just talk.